Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Amazon Ads Raw. Today we are talking about AMC audiences. If you haven't watched my video 4 weeks ago, I talked about the opportunity that now all the advertisers have access to the AMC and can create their audiences, and those audiences can be used for sponsored display targeting or for sponsored product bid adjustments. And today I want to talk about audiences that I would recommend you to build. And yeah, let's start, I would say. So how does this work? I have created this sheet here. I called it audience cheat sheet. This is just some recommendations. There is some very specific things you can do with audiences, and I think this is something you all need to look into a little bit more and kind of experiment with and figure out for your own brands what works, what doesn't work. There are audience groups. These groups are built based on templates. You'll find these templates if you go into your AMC and you go into audiences and then create audiences with instructional query. There's a bunch of potential audience, let's say, groups you can create, and some of them are already highlighted with a star, and those are then this is the name of the audiences then usually that I'm using here for the group. So let's start with the first group, lookalike audiences of customers with valuable purchase patterns, which is exactly like this one. You're getting it from Introduction to AMC lookalike audiences. Lookalike audience of customers with valuable purchase patterns. They come in 3 different types. Attributes for lookalike: purchased more than once, purchased multiple distinct products, or subscribe and save subscribers. I recommend you to build each of these, this one, and this one, and build them in different lookback windows. This depends a little bit on the size of your audiences, because you have to remember each audiences, in order to be created from Amazon, needs at least 2,000 individual user IDs to be created. So if in the last 30 days you only had 2,000 purchases, then it's not likely that a 7-day lookback window will work with this audience here. Because if you only had 2,000 purchases, you will not have had enough unique user IDs in 7 days to make this audiences happen. What you can do, you can still create audience, and then Amazon will tell you, hey, this audience creation failed due to low audience size. So go ahead, create these audiences, but have in mind they need to be a little, they need to have a specific minimum threshold of user IDs to be created. Otherwise, the creation will fail, and you will not see this right away. This will be shown from Amazon after somewhere. So you create them, then it takes a while to be running. They need to run the queries, and then these audiences are created, and then either they are completed or they're failing. So why do I recommend different lookback windows? Because they will give you more recency of data. So people that just in the last 7 days purchased more than once are, better for lookalike audiences. And maybe they are also, very high intent because you just had a deal running, or they're low intent because you had a deal running, or whatever. That's why I create different lookback windows. And when you see this line here, this would be 4 different audiences in reality. So I will create these audiences for 7 days, blah 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 blah. 7 days. I'll take the naming example here, put it in, create. Then I do the same with 30 days. Change the name to 30 days and create. Do the same with 90 days, with 365 days. Why do I create these different lookback windows? 365 is the longest lookback window that you get. 7 days is the lowest lookback window. You could also create specific time frames. So you could say, hey, I want to create an audience based on people that interacted, purchased, whatever with my brand only during Black Friday. Then you select Black Friday. Let's say this was these 3 days, and then you can create the audiences. But for our purpose, I'll show you like evergreen audiences. They use a dynamic lookback window. So we can only use 7, 14, 30, 60, 90, and 365 days for most of those audience that I will show you. 365 days is usually something I recommend you to just get the biggest audience size possible, 7 days to have the most recent, and then 30 and 90 is somewhere in between. Usually I don't do like 14 and 60, but guys, you're smart enough to figure that out yourself, what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Now, once we created this audience in the 4 different lookback windows, I want to move ahead and do the same for purchase multiple distinct products. Then I want to move ahead, do the same for subscribe and save people. Here, I'm not looking into the last 7 days, for example. Subscribe and save, 30 days is good, 90 days is good, 365 days is good, 7 days, I don't think that makes sense. So I want to, I also want to reduce the amount of audiences to the least amount possible necessary. Now, the interesting thing starts with not just rule-based audiences, because rule-based audiences are always based on your own data, your brand's data, your account's data. Lookalike audiences are essentially creating the same audiences, but on statistical twins inside Amazon's ecosphere. So I always recommend to use most similar. There is a difference between these similarities. Go read through these different definitions yourself. Most similar is what I would recommend, because those are the most closest to the ones that you're defining. And then I'll create the same lookalike audiences that I created earlier. So I would create lookalike audiences of purchase more than once in the last 30 days, right? This would be this line here, for example. Amazon will automatically append this most similar lookalike thing, so you don't even have to think about that. So what you can do when you come in here to create quickly audiences, click rule-based, blah, 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 create, then you change to lookalike, most similar, create. This way you create your rule-based audience and your lookalike audiences right away with 2 more clicks without changing name and description and whatever. Wait a second, you need to change the name, right? Because this is not a rule-based audience, but a lookalike audience. So you need to click a little bit more. All right, these would be the audiences I'll create from this purchase pattern things. Purchase more than once, purchase multiple distinct products, subscribe and save subscribers. And then the same for lookalike audiences. Now, there is another field here, or another column, that's called optional filter grain. In most of these queries, you have the option to include, or specific dimensions. In this case, we have the dimension ASINs, so we can filter for only specific ASINs. Let's say you sell 100 ASINs, but only one ASIN is your hero ASIN. Now you could say create a audience for people that purchase more than once, but only from this ASIN. All right, then obviously you would want to have put that ASIN in here somewhere as well, to make sure that your ASIN name is kind of consistent with what you're creating. You can also have like multiple ASINs, of course. Let's say you want to add full parent. No problem. Add all the childs and then you're good to go. All right, for the sake of time, let's move on. So this is how you can make your audiences more specific to specific ASINs in that case. Let's see what else we have. Let's open up the next tier here, or whatever you want to call it, the next row. Audiences of high total purchase customers. Now let's go back to audiences and to the instructional queries. And then we have, I think it should be this one, audiences based on high value customer segments, audience of high value customers, exactly. Now here, the form looks almost exactly identical. There's one difference here. Besides ASINs, we also, oh wait a second, this is not the right one. No. Let's stay here. I just open here the other field here. This is actually the high value customers here. Okay. On this, we only have the optional filter grain for ASINs as well. But let's talk about this. Here you can create audiences based on your top X% of customers to target. So you could say, hey, give me my top 10% of my customers in the last 30 days. Right? You can also create a lookalike audience based on the top 10 or top 5. So this is high value customers, meaning based on Amazon's algorithm, who has the highest value for you. And then you say, okay, just give me the top 5, top 10, top 1%, and create those audiences and lookalike audiences. I think lookalike audiences of those high value customers are very appealing to me. And then you do, last 7 days, last 30 days, whatever you think makes sense. Now let's move on to the other audiences. So I think it's this one here. This is actually the audiences of high total purchase customers. All right. Now we talk about these audiences here. The same thing applies. I would want to create rule-based audiences just for my audiences, just for my customers, and then lookalike audiences. And the two things I want to do is all customers. This is just all the customers. And then I do all customers last 7 days, last 30 days, last 90, last 65. And then I do the same only for new to brand customers, right? Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Now what you can do here as well is, and then obviously I do the same for lookalike audience, right? So I would create 4 audiences multiplied with the different time frames. And then what you can do here as well, which I also did in the past, is you could add another grain for ASINs, of course. This is, I think, on almost all of them, you can add an ASIN grain to slice down for specific ASINs. Or here, this is especially interesting to me, minimum total spend per consumer. So you could say, hey, I have a product, this costs $25. I want people to have at least spent $125 on my brand, right? So you see, they at least bought 5 units of your products within the last 30 days or within the last 365 days. And this is where audience creation gets very personal to your brand and where I can not give you any recommendation. This is really up to the brand. What do you think is a good amount here? Do you sell $500 products? Then maybe you want to at least add $500, right? Otherwise, you will not get enough customers in here. But if you sell $500 products, then maybe 14 days look-back windows will also not work. So you would probably need like at least 90 or 365 days to create these audiences. Okay. As I want to be quick, let's move on. And let's move to the last, let's say, bucket here, or the last 2 audiences of users that clicked sponsored ads but did not purchase. There's another instruction query here. Let me see. It's this one here. Let's also highlight that one for the next time. Looks like the same. You choose the advertiser, you choose a country, and then you say, okay, people that clicked on the sponsored ads but didn't convert it, last 30 days. Or I would only do 7 days. Because when we talk about retargeting, we don't want to extend the time range above 7 days. For the last couple of years, every time I run an AMC query about time to conversion, the vast majority of all the conversions happens within 1 day or within 7 days. So for everything that is sponsored display, where the minimum time frame you can select is 7 days, this is good enough. If you sell $1,000 products, maybe you want to think about the 7 days. But if you're an average seller and your product is average priced between $15 and $25, $35, then 7 days should be very much your time frame. This is a very specific audience. It's people that clicked a sponsored ad. Sponsored ad means sponsor product, sponsor brand, sponsor display, but did not purchase. So this is kind of a retargeting ad, but only on people that clicked on an ad. So you're not looking into all the people, just people that clicked on an ad and didn't purchase in the end. I call this true ads retargeting. Why true? Because I'm only retargeting people that did not purchase. The normal sponsored display retargeting is based on views. People that viewed my product get my sponsored display campaign shown. It doesn't say they didn't purchase. So also people that purchase from my brand gets these view retargetings, which doesn't make sense in my opinion. So I like this actually more. And once you create this audience, you can actually use it also for retargeting in sponsored display. Now, I have another option that is a little bit better than this one, but I'll save that for the last one, if you're still here and still with me. Now let's look in the last one, audiences of users that have added to cart but did not purchase. This is exactly the same like this one. No, well, it's not the same. Let's see here. I think it's this one here. This is not people that clicked on an ad. This is all the people that added something to the cart but didn't purchase in the end. So if you want to call that, whatever you want to call that, I called it add to cart no purchase in this case. For this audience and also for the previous audience with the sponsored ads and no purchase, I wouldn't create lookalike audiences because it doesn't make sense. These are audiences that didn't purchase from you. Whenever you want to create lookalike audiences is from super high valuable customers. You don't want to create lookalike audiences of poor customers, customers that didn't purchase, customers that are not converting. You don't want to target those lookalikes. You want to target your high value customer lookalikes. That's what you want to do. All right. For the last piece, I'll give you a custom SQL. This is, I call it true retargeting. You cannot find it in any of these pre-built audiences. However, with AMC, let's say your limits is what you have in the query editor and what kind of schemas and data is available to you. Now, the cool thing with AMC is it has built-in AI assistance. So you can prompt the query. You can say, hey, I want to create a query for this and that and this and that. Now, I'll show you how the query looks like. And was actually built with AI as well. So it's, I don't actually, let me see, how can I find this again? I think it was this one here. I'm not sure. No, it wasn't this one. Anyways, let's not waste too much time. There's a version in here, like a pre-built version, where you can also create your own audiences based with a SQL query. This is the SQL code, so it looks into conversions for all audiences. So that's the table. All right, so it's let's see once it loads conversion. I don't even know in which one. Conversion all. Conversions all. Let's see. Well, doesn't found. Okay. It's not finding because this is like from a paid table, but it should still work. I haven't, to be honest, I haven't tested this audiences, but the SQL came to me via the AI, and it's kind of taking, it looks at the event subtype detail pages, so everyone that looked at the detail page, and it excludes the user IDs that had a conversion. So people that looked at any of my products and had a detail page view, but didn't convert it in the end. And then the thing I'm doing here is, again, last 7 days. And this is an audience. Let me see if that is actually, live. Yep, it worked. Actually, it worked. So you see it here. I have like roughly 70,000 audience people here for last 7 days. And yeah, I think that covers most of it with AMC audiences. If you have any questions, let me know. With that, stay curious. Have a good day. Bye-bye.